In this video, I'm going to give you my final picks for UFC Las Vegas. We're going to look at DraftKings strategy, we're going to build some lineups, and we're going to talk about some prop opportunities, so make sure you watch until the end. You can call me Kunith. Let's make some money this week. If you haven't already, go back and watch the predictions video from earlier in the week. That's different than this video. That's a full card breakdown. We talk about every fight. We talk about straight betting opportunities. For final picks, we talk about DraftKings, DFS strategy. So that predictions video is going to be linked in the description. Also linked in the description is the official Kunith MMA website, and this is where you can get our official bets, DFS strategy guide, and DFS projections as well. One thing that we'll be adding to the site are post-fight notes. That way we can get real-time analysis on a fight that we just saw, and we can use that as we build up the library as a research tool later. Cut down on the time that you're researching for fights and helping you win more. And now we can get into the final picks. Before we get into value plays, we have to look at the change that came to the card. We lost Abubakar Nurmagomedov, but we kept Carlston Harris. Now he's fighting Jared Gooden, who was cut from the UFC, won a couple of fights outside the promotion, and now he's replacing Abubakar Nurmagomedov. I already liked Carlston Harris before the replacement, and now I love Carlston Harris. I really like the power, the ranginess, the snappy jiu-jitsu. I think all that makes him dangerous, and I think that's going to lead to a finish for him this week. Mozambique is no spring chicken, but we've seen him win fights in the UFC. We've seen him do it in impressive fashion, and I think he keeps that up this week. Because Jared Gooden is good, but he's not good enough to win fights at the UFC level consistently. The technique is there, the power is there, but combining the two really isn't. So don't be surprised if Carlston Harris comes up with a first-round finish this week, making him one of the best plays on DraftKings, especially considering the price. His price is not going to change. They already put it on there when he was supposed to fight Abubakar Nurmagomedov, so they're not going to change his price. He's 8,300, and from a betting perspective, he's around -300, -350. So you're getting a huge favorite at slight favorite pricing on DraftKings. It's something that we definitely want to take advantage of. The pick for me in this fight is going to be Carlston Harris inside the distance. And now we can slide on over to value plays. Plays at 8,000 and below, some plays that you'll need in your lineup. Now last week, the chalk hit hard. The only underdog to win is Alexa Grasso, as you know, and that made it so that the value plays weren't so valuable. This week I do think it's a little bit different though, because we have had a couple of chalky cards in a row. I think we're going to get back to normal here with a good mix of underdogs, good mix of favorites, and there's some underdogs here that I think have a real shot of winning. Anton Turkalj, I don't think that he wins. I personally think that he gets knocked out, but the grappling upside is there, and we know that DraftKings rewards grappling higher than any other type of scoring metric. 5 points for the takedown, 0.03 points for every second of control time, and if he's in a dominant position, he's probably raining down strikes, or he's putting himself in a position to find a submission early. He's at a massive striking disadvantage here, and I don't see him wasting a whole lot of time with Victor Petrino on the feet, because that guy swings them bricks. So if Turkalj goes out there, gets an early takedown, finds a submission in the first round, he's likely to score over 100 DraftKings points, and at $8,000, you'll absolutely need him in your lineup. That's a fight that you'll absolutely need the winner of. If you run multiple lineups, you might as well have some exposure to Petrino, some exposure to Turkalj. Go heavier on one of them than the other. I don't think you could be wrong on either side because of the win condition, but that grappling upside is there, the scoring upside is there, that ceiling is very possible to reach, and that's what's building value into his price at 8,000. Another value is Ryan Spann at 7,500, and I believe he was 7,500 last time out. This guy's got as much finishing potential as anybody on the card. We know that he's got power in his hands, and Nikita Krylov is hittable, and we also know that he's got that nasty front choke package. Guillotine, anaconda choke, ninja choke, things like that are things that Ryan Spann could snatch up real quick, and Nikita Krylov might turn into a wrestler when he feels that power of Spann on the feet. When you look at his fights in the UFC, I don't even care about the result, even though he's winning a vast majority of his fights. Just look at the rounds. 3 rounds in his debut, 1 round, 2 round, 3 rounds, and then the rest are all first round finishes. We know that a first round finish results in 90 DraftKings points, and for that reason, I think that Ryan Spann is one of the better value plays on the slate, and you probably need some of him and some of Krylov if you're running multiple lineups, just like the last fight we talked about. But Ryan Spann, to me, is better everywhere than Nikita Krylov. I know Krylov is getting some love publicly, a little less so now that he had to pull out of the fight 2 weeks ago, but I still think that Ryan Spann is better everywhere, and outside of just gassing out, I don't think that he loses this fight, and I love the price tag. Now, this is our value play that's an against the grain kind of pick, a leverage kind of pick, because from what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing, SD Dumas is the overwhelming public favorite, and I can understand why. Josh Fremd is winless in the UFC, SD Dumas has a lot of hype around him, a lot of people are going to be watching him this weekend. He's got got the whole Street Fighter background thing, whatever. What SD Dumas has never seen is a guy who's going to be taller than him, as young as him, and somebody's going to go toe-to-toe with him. This is a massive step up in competition. Josh Fremd is no slouch by any means, even in his last fight. If you're just looking at the fight log, oh, he got submitted by Trishan Gore, that's awful. But if you were really watching the fight, you know that he was working Gore for the first round, and I think he could do the same thing to Dumas, and I'm worried about Dumas's cardio if this gets into the second and third round, because he's so used to getting guys out of there quickly. He's making his UFC debut, a lot of nervous energy, he might have that adrenaline dump, and Josh Fremd is still going to be there. And I don't like the idea of thinking that Dumas is going to be able to come out, take him down, wrap up his neck, and finish him in the first round all that easily, because we saw Fluffy Hernandez, who does that as well as anybody in the division, have trouble doing that to Josh Fremd. So I like the matchup, I like the leverage, I like the finishing upside, and I think that all builds serious value into Josh Fremd's price. One of the better value plays this week if he comes through. The next guy that we're looking at as a value play might be the cheapest he's ever been on DraftKings. A lot of the reason why he's so cheap is because you're paying that Nurmagomedov tax. And I know I've said that before, and some of you guys were like, oh, but he's not that kind of Nurmagomedov. I know, but a lot of people don't know that. So since you're paying the Nurmagomedov tax, that's driving down the price of Jonathan Martinez, who is just as good everywhere. On the feet, I think he's going to be able to land strike for strike with Nurmagomedov and probably be the one landing more strikes later in this fight. My problem with him, though, one of the reasons why I didn't want to put him in the value plays, because he's going the distance often and he doesn't want to shoot for takedowns this week. Said Nurmagomedov is not the kind of guy you want to shoot takedowns against. He wraps up necks faster than anybody maybe in the division from a defensive grappling standpoint, and you really don't want to play those games. Jonathan Martinez doesn't want to play those games, and these guys are going to stand at range, throw kicks, punches, and they're going to keep it that way for 15 minutes, which likely results in the winner of this fight scoring around 60 to 70 DraftKings points, and not something that shows up on the optimal lineup. But if the dogs don't bark, Jonathan Martinez is one of the more live dogs on the card, and I think there's a real chance that he wins this week. And then our last value play is a big leverage play, and it's also taking advantage of a line that just seems off to me. Betting lines dictate the salary on DraftKings, and you can have Austin Lingo for $6,700 this week. Austin Lingo is riding a 2-fight winning streak, and he recorded knockdowns in both of those fights. Austin Lingo throws heavy power and keeps moving forward, and Ricardo Ramos is the kind of guy that will let that space go. He'll relinquish the space. So if Austin Lingo starts marching him down, throwing heavy punches, straight punches, punches to the body, I could see him breaking Ricardo Ramos. And down at this price, he really doesn't need to do that much. You don't need to see a crazy high score out of him down at this price, but I think he has the potential of doing that because Ricardo Ramos is there to be hit. I think if Ramos wants to take him down, he could probably do that, but at the same time, I think that Austin Lingo is going to be able to stuff his takedown. And even if he doesn't stuff the takedowns, I think he'll be able to work back to his feet. And I think that forward pressure, that hard-nosed kind of fighting style is going to give Ricardo Ramos problems. Ramos is not a brawler. He's more of a technician. He's a guy who does really well when things are going his way, but I do think that if he's getting pressured too much, he's going to crumble. $9,500 would be way too much to pay for Ricardo Ramos considering the matchup, and I think that Austin Lingo at $6,700 is an absolute steal. Line's too wide. Give me some of that. And that does it for the value plays. If you haven't already, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, comment something for the algorithm, tell me who your value play is this week. I'd love to know. Now we can use our value plays to start building lineups, and we'll start with cash game lineups. For those of you that don't know, cash games are 50-50s, double ups, head-to-heads, games that you can win your entry, basically double your entry if you come in the top 50% of the field. Normally when you play these games, you want to establish the safest scoring floor possible. So we'll start by stacking the main event. We've got Petr Yan there. We'll come all the way down to $7,000 Merab, and we've got $8,450 left over per fighter. Carlston Harris is going to be an absolute staple in your cash game lineups this week. $8,500 left over to spend. I think you come down here and you punt somebody who probably doesn't get finished. I think Lipski has a decent chance of not getting finished. Martinez has a decent chance of not getting finished, and so does Lingo. And at $6,700, that's real attractive for cash games because now your average remaining salary is $9,400. Now you can come all the way up to $9,700 Mario Bautista. At this point, you have $9,100 left over, and that opens up a lot of things for you. Nurmagomedov's available, Williams is available. I like Silva in this situation. You've left $200 salary on the table. Stack the main event, grab that -350 favorite at $8,300, punt Austin Lingo because he probably goes the distance. You get -1,000 odds on your $9,700 Mario Bautista, and then Bruno Silva I do think opens the night with a win for you and gets you off on the right foot. That's just one way to attack your cash games this week. If you have other ideas and you want to send me a direct message, you can make a membership on KunithMMA.com, send send me the message. We also talk about it in the forum a little bit, and that's the point of the website. Not only is it for you to get some research tools, but also for the community to come together and kind of decide on things that make sense. And last week we had a lot of discussion in there about cash game lineups, and I'm happy about it. But as we get bigger, we're going to have discussions not just about what cash game lineup do you like, but what tournament lineup do you like? What strategy are you going to implement this week? What kind of straight bets do you like? Props, parlays, things like that. Now we can get into tournament lineups, and I think what you'll see a lot in tournaments this week, I think a lot of people are going to come down here and play Merab. You've got that grappling upside, $7,000 price tag. That's nice. But I do think a lot of people will play Merab this week. I think Carlston Harris should be one of the most popular plays on the slate, just considering the odds versus what his price is. A lot of people are going to want to attack that co-main event, and I think they'll go with Romanov more often than not. Come down here and grab somebody like Ryan Spann, who should be popular this week. 9,300 left over. People love clicking that Nurmagomedov button. I'm telling you this now. And now with 9,500 left, a lot of people in a lot of your contests will come right up here and grab Ricardo Ramos. And they'll look at Ricardo Ramos and say, well, he scored 102 last time. We've seen him score 106 in the past. We've seen him score 98 in the past. He can wrestle. He can strike. He's good. He is good. But I don't know if he's 9,500 good, because if he doesn't win inside the distance, or if he doesn't win very quickly, you see scores like 63, 89, 60, 68, and that's not anything close to what you would need at his price. If you were in this situation, I'd recommend that you take Ricardo Ramos out of there, and I think you'd have better success with somebody like JJ Aldrich, who you'll look at the fight log and say, well, Kunitz, she doesn't score that many points, but Ariane Lipski's been finished in her last 3 fights. Ariane Lipski doesn't defend a takedown very well. So if JJ Aldrich is able to take her down and finish her in the first or second round, she's going to score a ton of points and come in at really low ownership like women's MMA typically does. Another route you can go here is really any of these guys in this range. You can grab Williams, you get that finishing upside, you left 500 salary on the table, I like it. Bruno Silva, I think, wins this fight. SD Dumas, if he wins, it's probably inside the distance, and at 8,800, you're in a good spot if you've left 700 salary on the table, but I do think he's going to be somebody who garners a decent amount of ownership this week. Now, for people in this situation, if you sent me this, I'd probably say come off of Nurmagomedov and just go all the way up to Mario Bautista. Mario Bautista's been leaning on his grappling, getting these finishes, and I think he's going to score over 100 DraftKings points just like he has in his last 3 fights. But let's say you didn't like Merab in your lineup. That's fine. We'll give you a Piotr Yan look. So Piotr Yan, 9,200, pricey for sure. But I do want to just throw something out there. We've talked about this with guys like Piotr Yan in the past, like somebody like Cyril Gane. And not specifically last week, but just in general. If Cyril Gane wins, it's because he's outstriking his opponent, and he's going to do that for however long the fight is, 15 minutes, 25 minutes, whatever. If we take a look at Piotr Yan, he scored 71 points last time out in a 3-round loss, so if he got the decision, which he probably should have gotten, he would have scored 101. But that's also with 6 takedowns and nearly 7 minutes of control time sprinkled in there. He's not taking Merab down and controlling him. 5-round loss to Aljamain Sterling, he scores 51 points, so if he were to get the decision, which he probably should have got the decision in that fight as well, he scores 81 DraftKings points, and at 9,200, he was 9,300 that night. That's not going to cut it. What you're hoping for is more of a performance like the one against Sandhagen, where he scored 108. He also got a knockdown in that fight, and I think he's very live to get a knockdown this week, and he landed and threw a ton of strikes. The issue with this, though, is that Corey Sandhagen is also trading with him. He's not taking him down. Merab's going to be looking to take him down. He's going to secure a couple of takedowns. I don't think that Piotr Yan blanks him this week. Aljamain Sterling, he was throwing him all over the place. Now, Jose Aldo, if he puts up a score of 154, yes, yes, yes. But that's obviously an outlier. That's one of the highest scores I've ever seen, right? But you just have to be weary. You have to be weary of rostering Piotr Yan. He's going to come in at very high ownership, and if he wins 3-2 on the judges' scorecards, doesn't get many takedowns, if any, against Merab, and he just outlands him and wins with damage, there's a good chance that he scores around 80, 90 DraftKings points, and at $9,200, buyer beware. We'll still build the lineup around him if you like him, but I don't know if Piotr Yan is the button that you need to click this week. But now you've got 8,160 left over. If you wanted to come here to somebody like Turkalj, or you wanted to come to Petrino, you could do that. Let's say you went with Carlston Harris at 8,300. Attacking the mid-range is never a bad idea, especially in a situation where a lot of underdogs don't win. Then the mid-range is going to be a good place for you to kind of hang out in. At this point, you can go with somebody like Ryan Spann. You can come up here to somebody like Victor Henry, who I just expect to outwork Tony Gravely. And now you've got 8,600 600 left over. You can go with that grappling upside of Romanov, and I think this is a solid lineup. Another thing you could do, say you took Turkalj out of there, you can grab another one of the value plays. You can leave some salary on the table to get different. But let's say we didn't put Josh Fremd in there. We went back up to Turkalj, and we've got no salary left over, but we do basically put some stock into the idea of Petr Yan not scoring all that much. Well, now again, we're kind of in this range where we can have whatever we'd like. So SD Dumas, I feel like if you don't have Fremd, you might as well have Dumas in your lineup. 8,800, you've left 400 salary on the table. You're not rostering the main event. You're in a good spot in terms of leverage. Now I'll give you a look where if you're running multiple lineups, you should be trying something like this on a weekly basis just because of how often it proves to be successful. Just going heavy on the mid-range. So you just go one up, one down. So for example, you've got Turkalj and Petrino. Let's say you went with Petrino, you come down here and you grab the next best guy that you like. Let's say in this case it's Volkov. Now you come up here, Carlston Harris. Come back down here, Ryan Spann. Come back up here, you can grab somebody like Davey Grant, who I think's live for a knockout. Now you don't need to come back down here, you could just grab Mario Bautista. Again, no main event, so you're already getting way different, and if Petr Yan scores 85 points and you don't have either side of the main event, you're going to cash in your tournaments. You're getting up to Mario Bautista, who's going to carry a good amount of ownership, but that $9,700 price tag probably scares off more people than it should. Davey Grant's going to go way under the radar this week. Davey Grant at 8,500. There are so many guys that are priced around him that other people are going to want to get to. You see a guy like Romanov, you see a guy like Carlston Harris, you got this fight in the middle with Turkalj and Petrino. This is probably where people would go in that mid-range before they go to Davey Grant. Now, if you want to play something that's just the misfits lineup, a lineup that not many people are going to play any piece of, really, you can come up here to JJ Aldrich, Carl Williams, you could grab Davey Grant. At this point, you can come all the way down here and grab $7,400 Josh Fremd. Come down here and grab $6,700 Austin Lingo. 9,000 salary left over. Don't even look all the way up here. You can come right down here and grab somebody like Krylov, who I don't think a ton of people will be on this week. Victor Henry, Carlston Harris. Let's go Victor Henry. This is that 1%er. So that's just an idea. And again, you can send me your lineups at kunithmma.com. There is a DM function where you can DM me or really anybody on the site if you want to, and you can ask me what I think, and I'll tell you what I think about your lineup. You can also lean on the DFS strategy guide to give you an idea of how you should be approaching your lineups this week, as well as the projections model that we have to help you make more informed decisions. I'll be posting my underdog plays on the community tab on YouTube this week. It looks like underdog is lagging a bit when it comes to the MMA picks of the week, but at Underdog Fantasy, they also have all kinds of sports: football, basketball, esports, hockey, college basketball, and you name it, they have it. Another way that you could play daily fantasy sports, a different way that you could play daily fantasy sports, and a lot of fun, especially the pick'em higher or lower game that they offer for all these sports, specifically for MMA, I really like. They do match your first deposit up to $100 with my code Kunith, or if you just go on through the link that you're going to see in a pinned comment. There's a couple of links that you'll see in the pinned comment. You're going to see a link to our website, you're going to see a link to Underdog, and you'll also see a link to a $1 winner-take-all contest on DraftKings this week. It's a private contest. You can go right through the link, or you can go through the invitation that's on DraftKings, but I'm going to send it over to you. Join the contest. Most of you can get in with just your crowns. If not, just pay $1. You're in the contest. Winner take all. The more people that enter, the bigger the pool, the more you win if you come in first place, but you probably won't because I'm gonna crush you anyway. If you've made it to this point in the video, I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, comment something for the algorithm, and I wish you the best of luck this weekend.